Happy New Year, everyone. Good to see you.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for being here. I'll just quickly introduce Pam Belyea. You probably all know her. She's an agent with us. And
not all of us, because there's a lot of them. I've seen you at team meetings and things. So.
Well, Pam is great. She's got a passion for teaching. And Pam, thank you for being here to do this morning.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I grab a picture of everybody just real quick?
All right, everybody smile for the camera.
I know.
Paul's the consummate photographer.
Prove that you guys were here. All right, I'll make it quick. Ready? Oh, I can't see Kim. There you are. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Have a good class.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get busy. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself first, and then I really want to go just around the room. I want to know your name and how long you've been in the business total and how long you've been at Equity. Those are the three things I'm really interested in. So I'm Pam Belyea. I've been in the industry since June of 2014. I started out at Keller Williams and was there for 2.5, 3 years in that range, and then chose to come here due to the fact that I had brought in my husband, my daughter, and my son-in-law, and they didn't like Keller at all. And they were like, "We're leaving, Mom. Bye." I was like, "Really? Okay, I'm coming." But it took me about a month after they all jumped ship to come over, and I am so glad I did. And then I brought Shelly. So I really love Equity. I love Todd and Stacy. I like the way they run things. Paul is amazing. And as far as my own, you don't have to come on in. Hi, how are you? You don't have to talk about your own personal productivity, but I think it's good for you guys to know kind of where I'm coming from as your educator. Do I have any validity in sitting here? And I have done in the 3 years that I was with Keller, I averaged somewhere between 12 and 20 transactions a year. Starting right out, I was very blessed. I had 2 daughters that bought homes right away, and then I got my youngest one involved, and so I did start with family and friends, and now the bulk of we did. My husband joined me 2.5 years ago, but he didn't really start working in the business till this past year. The past year together we did 20 transactions, and what else was I going to say about that? We've done about 75 if you take from my very first day of real estate. So within 4 years, 75 deals. I'm very, very pleased with that. And I was a school teacher. I was an art teacher, and I went in on a January of 2014 to find out when I could retire, and the guy said, "No, your expenses and your income from retirement are not matching at all. You're not going to be able to retire." So I decided I would kind of phase into real estate, took the class, got my license in May, and ended up just retiring anyway and starting full-time in real estate. So that was a big leap of faith for me, and it has worked out great. So that's, if you have questions for me at all, that I'm happy to share. Let's start with you.
So John Holm, I've been in the business for about 11 months and with Equity for 11 months.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm Kim Dunbar, and I've been in the business for 2 months, and I was with Equity for 2 months.
You guys are so brilliant. You started in the right place to begin with. Good job.
I did not.
Me either.
I've been in the industry since August of 15. I got licensed in June of 17, and then I officially started with Equity on the 17th of December, and this is my first event or meeting anybody here.
Oh,
So,
awesome. And what was your first name?
Tracy Quintana.
Tracy. Okay.
Shelly Fisher. I had my license in Kansas City for about 20 years. Took a 10-year break when we moved here. got my license in 14 when Pam got hers, and been with Equity for, 2 years. Somewhere now.
I am Diane. I had 35 years in mortgage banking and finally got tired of it. It kind of, things went south, and got my license in 2014. Went with Keller Williams for 4 years.
Oh!
I love a lot of stuff there, but you get lost unless you're like top go getter.
You get lost even if you're not top. I mean, even if you're doing really well.
It's interesting, it's exciting, it taught me a lot of stuff, but at this point in my life I need low key, and I have a friend who was here and suggested I try this, so that's why I'm here. As far as I kind of just did it to get a license, so when I buy and sell with family, and I did get my son his first home, so that was kind of nice, and I've done a referral. But as far as real stuff, I had some medical issues, so I haven't been able to go get.
You will.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Elu Sorieda, I got licensed almost 3 years ago, and right after I started with Equity. Pretty much, I was here for 1 month for an accident and
Love that.
I wondered, I hadn't seen you around, so good, welcome back.
Yeah, my name is Michael. I government here. Well, I'm just new. I first get my license before 7 months, and then joined Keller Williams for 3 months. Now it's about 3 months with Equity.
Excellent.
There's a pattern here.
Yeah. I'm Mindy Sanders. I have been in the industry for a year and with Equity for a year.
You guys are so smart.
I'm an oldie. I started with Coldwell Banker about 17 years ago, and then came over here. When did Equity start? Does anybody know?
About 7 years ago.
It was
6 or
about
7 years ago.
I've been with them about 6 years then, because Todd and I knew them all from Coldwell Banker, and a bunch of us
Right.
came over.
Good.
I'm Carrie Brightman. I got licensed in September, and I started with Equity in October, so
Good job.
I'm Amy Morris. I got licensed in Arizona for a couple of years, but I really did only personal stuff there. We had moved there from here, so when we came back here, I said, maybe I'll put myself through this hell again. And I'm hoping that this time it will be different, and I'm trying
I'm
to
sure it will.
do what I can.
Good.
But we were classmates.
Helping with kids, we were
Oh,
classmates.
you were classmates, and I told her.
So, and after 2 years at Realty One Group, I was like, well, I can't repeat that. So this will be better. It's much
Good.
smaller.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to be. So, welcome. This is the first time Stacy has asked me to teach a class. I taught at Keller as a master faculty, and because I was a school teacher before. And but I am so delighted to be teaching this class, and I'm hoping that she'll let me teach it again. Yeah, or that you guys even like it the first time. So with that, we're going to get started. I do want to just go back to what we were talking about right before we open the class, which was, can we follow people? Can we hook up with people? And the confidentiality of sitting in on a listing and a buyer appointment is of concern. So it really is something that Stacy and Todd would have to make a call on before you decided to, the two of you go out together, for instance, or something. You really, really need to sit down and talk to them. However, the reason that I'm doing the class, and this is where I was getting to, was that I am always available to role play with you. And that was what we all did to get comfortable with it, and set up some scenarios. So, pick a friend, pick 2 people, sit down, go around the table and practice your buyer's consult or your listing. And honestly, it's perfectly good, and it builds your confidence the same way. It really does. So that would be my suggestion, is pull somebody and do a little role playing on it and do the whole thing. Make sure that you have allotted an hour's worth of time. Don't think that you're just going to get together and exchange notes and things like that. You really need to role play as though one or the other of you is the customer. Okay? So that's just my feeling on it, and by all means, I always defer to Todd and Stacy. They are the be-all, end-all. And I hope you're having a great time in Hawaii. This thing right here is for Facebook. This thing right here. So I am streaming live, and I have to remember not to do anything stupid, hopefully. But okay, in starting this class, I wanted to send out, and I'm going to pass this around. This is, okay, how many of you, I grew up going to church as a child, and I would walk into church and get my bulletin. They called it a bulletin. And that way I could check off when we were, where we were in the service. Okay, we're on hymn 3 and the sermon's next, and that's 20 minutes. So I give out an agenda so that you guys will know kind of what the anticipated topics are, what we're going to cover. You can write notes on these are yours, or throw them away, whatever you like. But this way, it gives me the opportunity to really stay on track and know where we're headed. So, but you're welcome to ask questions at any time. Thank you. Did you get one?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah. Okay, so to begin with, we're just going to touch on finding buyers, because I've talked to Mindy, Amy, a couple of other people that were here a little early, and I mean, if you don't have buyers or listing appointments, and you don't have 2 daughters that are older enough to buy a house, then where do you start? Where do you get busy? So we're going to talk about a few things. I heard somebody talking about that they're in Buffini. Who's in Buffini? 1, 2, 3. Okay. I know it's tough. I know it's overwhelming. And as a new agent, it is a lot to take in. However, take the tiniest piece of it that makes sense to you and do it. And do it all the time. So whether it's doing the pop-bys and then following up with a phone call. If you take nothing else out of it, so in my first year, that was the piece of Buffini that I took out. Shelley and I were blessed to have a friend who paid for the class and then didn't want to take it herself, so it was on video. And so the 2 of us just went and sat in her office, and
That's a nice gift.
it was a very nice gift.
It
And
takes the pressure off.
it took all the pressure off, and it was wonderful information. So the Buffini method for me is one of the best ways to get business. All right, so that's something. So if you're taking it, great. If you have you taken Buffini Ninja?
Long time ago.
Right. Doesn't hurt to do it again.
Refresh, yeah.
Yeah, I took it twice. I took Buffini twice. Once with Shelley, and then once here. And they're wonderful because they will pay you $100 for any transaction that happens to fall in this, whether it came from Buffini or not. And so I was able to pay for mine because I was fortunate enough to have transactions that fell in those 12 weeks. So just keep in mind, it's a wonderful opportunity. So whether you've been in the business a year, been in the business 15 years, Vance and I will probably, my husband Vance and I now work together. I think I said that. We'll probably take it again. He's taken it once, I've taken it twice. But it's just good refresher. The bottom line is only take what you can consume. It's kind of like, if you're going to fill your plate, Don't let your eyes, just pick what you can do and then do it. Finish your plate. Just go out and, if you're gonna make 5 calls a day, do it. Okay, so the Buffini method. We're not gonna spend a lot of time. Open houses are wonderful opportunities for buyers. You can also find listings out of that. Our last open house provided us with, we haven't been able to actually hook them yet, but we found a couple from the neighbors poking around in the open house, and then they were thinking of listing their house. So we're still talking to them, and I have found people. Do not think that that open house is going to provide you with a sale in the next 60 days. It's not. It is just not. These are people that once you have a name and a phone number and some rapport, now go to the Buffini method or any relationship method. It took me 2 years to get off of my very first open house. I had a very nice couple, lived across the street, and it took me 2 years to list and sell them. But I did, and that's where I met them, was at an open house. Yes?
So for those of us that are new that don't have the opportunity to have a buyer or a seller for an open house, how do we get to do open houses for other agents?
You can, and it's wide open. There are thousands of agents in the Denver metro area, and if you want to work in a particular area, I live in Raleigh Downs in Parker. There are 2 houses for sale right now that are listed. I like working in Raleigh. Now, I haven't done an open house recently and I haven't needed to, but I could call those 2 agents and say, hey, would you like me to hold your house open?
Equity agents?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you is it's wide open. You can hold anybody's house open. So if you like an area, concentrate on the area. If you want to stick with equity agents and kind of help out at equity agents, put it out on Equity's Facebook thing.
Yeah, check the equity Facebook page. 'Cause
Sometimes people
are
will
always
ask
asking for
uh-huh,
help. I've
for
done
help.
a ton of open houses just
Oh,
from
awesome.
people asking on the Facebook page.
My son-in-law, who has been in the business about 2.5 years now, he gets a lot of his business from open houses, and he and our daughter do open houses regularly, 2 and 3 a month. So open houses, great opportunity both for listers and buyers. Do not limit yourself to your own listings. That is not what has to happen. You just go out and set yourself up on a schedule. One of the things that you need to keep in mind is you have to have a plan or you're failing. You have to plan to succeed or you're going to fail. Oh, I don't know. There's a good.
If you fail to plan.
There you go. You plan to fail. Yeah. All right. You guys get the idea. If you plan to have 3 open houses a month, you will have business. You will. It's not going to be immediate business, but it is business. And sometimes things. Okay. So just a quick example. Vance and I had a listing someplace. Hannah and Rich came, did an open house, got the buyer, got a buyer, worked with them for a year, put them in a house. Their parents now are going to be selling their $500 and some thousand house, and they are buying a $500 and some thousand house. So out of that open house, over the next 1.5 years, they've gotten 3 transactions out of it. So
You're not really doing an open house to get to
That
sell
house
that
sold.
house.
Right, you're doing it to
No.
network.
You're
You are
doing
n-
it to
Yeah,
follow
and I'm
business.
sorry, I should have been more clear with that. People think that your client, the lister's clients think that that's to help them sell the house. That really is not at all. It is for you or whoever is holding the open houses to find new people of any kind. Okay, so open houses. Door knocking. How many people love door knocking?
Nowadays?
Yeah, it's very difficult. However, I have had 3 or 4 of my transactions come from door knocking. And I'm Shelley and I used to do it all the time in a particular area because at one time we were looking for a home for her son.
I find that sometimes that's easier if you have something specific. Like if you have someone that's looking that says, I'd like to kind of live in this area, that gives you the opportunity, one, to find their place, but two, to acquire other business, because then you have a reason to be knocking on that door. I have a buyer, they're looking to live here.
Yeah.
Were you specific? So I know in RE Colorado, they showed us the Remine. Did you use any of those?
Remine was not available when I was door knocking. It wasn't even there. I have not door knocked for a while.
I really don't want to, but.
Well, yeah, but in the beginning, open houses, door knocking, whatever it takes, whatever it takes, and get your base going, because this past year, the 20 transactions were all referrals.
Yeah,
most of
They're all, and yours as well. And Rich and Hannah's as well. So the people that I'm familiar with, and I would bet that if you asked any of the top producers at Equity, it's referral business. I went to the top producers panel at Smedra last Friday. Mark Baker, who's here, all of his business is referral, and he does a lot more business than I do. So good job, Mark. But anyway, so that's door knocking. We're not going to go into the how-tos. If you'd like to know how I door knocked, call me up. I will be happy to tell you what I said, what I did. I always gave away a little something. Pencils. I always gave away pencils. I was an art teacher. Everybody needs a pencil. My God, my daughters don't have pencils with erasers. They have mechanical pencils. It's like,
But you can also, like I was going to say, just real quick on that, is like I would do up a little sheet that would give things that were on the market in that area and what has recently sold in that area, and you know what's under contract. So because the people always love to know what's happening right there in their area, and it didn't cost me that much to do.
No.
I also think we got like freaked out with door knocking. I was, my first year, I was like, no. I hate when people knock my door, and I'm not doing that to others.
Yeah.
But and I tried open houses, but then I started door knocking for open houses, and it's totally different.
There you go. Yes.
It's totally different.
Those tie together.
This is find a way. Just find a way. Well, I'm not good at door knocking because I don't like people doing that to me. I really don't.
But if you're inviting them to an open house,
and I want their feedback, and I want their opinion, and then I have the perfect excuse for not having door.
you just have to figure out in your head how you're going to come across to people. Are you coming across as a fuller brush man? We don't have this anymore. I'm showing my age. But, or vacuum cleaner. No, we are consultants. We are always consultants, and you have to door knock as a consultant. So, but thanks for both of your input on that, because it's really, those are very important parts to it. Okay, so I have elevator, cashiers, jewelry, pins, and clothing. If there's something, now, I know that Todd always has his equity pin.
Where do you get that? Sorry.
You will get it by attending a team meeting for the first time.
What do you mean a team meeting?
Okay, every month.
Sales meeting.
The sales meeting.
attended too.
You have, I know you were.
Have a
Were you
realtor
signed
pin?
up?
We've seen it.
Oh, no, there's a
That's the
E.
equity.
It's an E.
No,
You didn't get an E? Okay, we'll talk to Paul.
I've been here too.
Yeah, because that's where we met.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
I met one of them.
yes, and that's where I met
So
you.
technically,
So, all right, so there you would have an equity pin. You could wear a realtor pin, because you'll get those from Smedra or whatever board you belong to.
You can just order those
Where?
Yeah.
through.
You can go to Smedra and buy one.
If you go on Elevate,
There's a place on there to
Are
buy
the name
them.
pins on Elevate?
And you can get a name
you
pin.
can get name tags, yeah.
So, my husband and I just got these from Hannah and Rich for Christmas. I'm
They're
so
nice.
excited. So, that's something. And then, you probably can't see my necklace, but my
little house.
Yeah, it's a little house, and I get so many comments on this from ladies. Oh, what a darling. Oh, well, I'm a realtor. My husband bought it for me. It's very passive. Very passive. As opposed to, but which work also, your name tags, but this to me, if I'm going anywhere where I think there might be and then a lot of times the reason I put cashiers, when you're checking out, people just chit chat. And so we sold a house of a lady who was a cashier at Walmart, over $525,000. Cashier. So you never know who you're going to run into. The reason elevator is on there, even though we don't necessarily ride in elevators, they call them elevator speeches. Have your 30-second blah blah, something that's easy. Anyway, this is a way to find buyers. Can I attribute anything to this necklace? No. But I'm waiting. It's coming, and I'll let you all know when it happens. You can also create and hold first-time homebuyer seminar workshops. Ask for some help from someone and put together a little seminar. Your lenders are great resources for this sort of thing. They love helping you put together little seminars and workshops. So talk to your lenders, establish that relationship, and then you can hold it at a library, a community center, just any place. Churches, great spots, schools that will let you use a room for very little to zero money. I think the library's free, if I'm not mistaken. The other thing that you can offer is breakfast at businesses. So if you have friends that either own businesses or are in human relations, HR departments, something like that, where you can kind of get an in, just call them up and say, hey, I'd really like to come in, bring in about 25 burritos and some coffee, and set me up someplace in the corner and send people to me to get a burrito. And then with your burrito, you're handing out your business card and introducing yourself. And so I've not done that before, but I'm starting that this year. So that's something else. That's it with how to find buyers. All of those could be individual classes on their own. So, I'm sure that they offer those. So we're not going to spend any more time on it unless you have a specific question. Okay. Now we're going to go into a buyer consult. A buyer consult is a sit-down meeting with someone who is not yet your buyer. Someone who would like to buy, maybe now, maybe 6 months, maybe a year from now. It doesn't mean that you don't do the whole buyer consult at that point in time. Keep in mind that anything that you do needs to be followed up with regular communication to that person. Calls, notes, and Popeyes. Okay? A buyer consult builds rapport. It sets you up and explains the process to them, and it sets all the expectations that that buyer needs to get into this process. You have no idea how much misinformation is out there. Well, you do. But there is so much misinformation or partial information that especially first-time home buyers have, and then the whole other audience that has unrealistic expectations is the people who bought 20 years ago and now they're going to sell. And it's a completely different world. So whether it's someone who has owned their home and you're going to be listing and buying, you really need to do two. Don't think you can get by with just one. You need to do a buyer consult with them. They need to understand, how is this process going to work? When they know that, the process will go so much smoother. They won't have surprises. You will have already set them up to expect this to happen then, or if this happens, what the next step is. So that just makes you out to be a consummate professional and makes you really look like you know what you're doing, even if you're newer and feel like you don't. And it takes a long time to stop feeling new. Even at 4 years, there's still so much that I don't know. But you've been in a year, Mindy, and it felt like nothing you know, and it just takes a long time to really get your feet under you. So use all your tools, get your systems in place, and that's your crutch. That's like someone who's learning to walk in physical therapy. That's those rails that you can hold on to and push yourself along and really come across as someone who knows what they're doing in the real estate industry.
Well, you run into so many different situations with every buyer, so it's not the same thing. It's not like you're doing the same exact thing for every, I mean, your process is the same, but situations arise with each different sale.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've got your thing of millennial buyers and,
Oh, yeah.
you know, then the people
First
going
demographic.
down and then up, the people going up with, you know, oh, we got another kid, time to buy.
Yeah,
So
time to buy.
you might also find who you're, where you feel the most
Comfortable.
yeah,
Who
you know, I mean, if you have kids, then whatever. I'm of course looking at the downsizers at this point in my life.
I'm gonna send this around. What I'm now sending around is and Shelley and I put this together 4 years ago. What do you need in a consult package? You know, what do you have to sit down at the table and have your bases covered? So we're gonna talk about these, and then I'm gonna send around a couple of examples. So the first thing on the sheet is a customer profile sheet. You can just send those around. The next thing on it, so I'm just sending you, and if you'll look at the back, I'm old, and I'm old-fashioned, and I am very computer savvy. It's not like I don't know about computers and can't do a lot of things, and I use a CRM and everything. But if I'm working with people, I'm sitting down with those people and I am filling out a profile on them. And then that becomes, this is old too, a tickler file. So that I am keeping them in a monthly organizational thing to know. And so on the back of these is my contacts with them. So here's all their info. Here's what they'd like. And here's when I've contacted them last. And I just feel it's really, really important to keep good records as to when you're contacting them. Because you may sit down with these people in May and end up, they're not really ready to go till next February, you know, so you've got to be contacting them on a regular basis.
And if you're not, somebody else is.
Somebody else is, guaranteed.
Is this kind of like the buyer questionnaire on Elevate, or
It
did you
could,
kind of
could be, but
No.
I had this before in here. So yes, and you can, the only reason I pass this out is you can see what I use. Elevate has some excellent resources. You may even make up your own excellent resource. But this was something that worked for me. And we'll talk a little bit about, not necessarily the Elevate. We are going to talk about Elevate, but the reason I do this is I minimize what they're looking for and maximize who they are. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't care if you want 3 or 4 bedrooms. I mean, I do. But do I care more about why you want to buy and why you should buy and what your family situation is? Those are the things I really care about. And those are the reasons that they come back to you. That's because you care about them, not just about hitting a criteria checklist of 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, finished basement, granite countertops, you know. So, I don't know about the Elevate one.
okay?
So just look at it and see how it fits with your personality.
Would you
Okay.
be willing to share this with us so we don't have to recreate it?
Sure, if you want it, I can pull the logo off and send it out.
I love it. It's
I love it, but that's just me.
What's the 1 through 10?
yeah, that's
When did you, what does that mean? Hold on, where's my copy? I have to look and see what context that's in. Hold on.
That's how she rates them. I'm just kidding.
When did you start looking for? Oh,
Odds of getting a deal.
yeah, like 1 month ago, 10 months ago. It's just a time
Okay, it goes
frame.
with that.
Yes, it goes
Question
with
about
that.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah,
Alright.
but it was a good question. Okay, I'm also gonna send around, just in case you need, now here's a terrible thing to admit. I'm out of business cards. I ran out and I didn't want to order again because my picture was taken 4 years ago. And I got older and heavier. And I didn't want to put my nice skinny picture on my new cards. So we've just had our pictures taken. So this is my husband's and he hates this picture, just so you know. My phone number is on the back. So please take one. The reason though that I'm handing them out is because it's on your list.
Right.
Several business cards. We're going to talk about why you do that. But yeah, there's a bunch of reasons. Referrals are definitely up there, but that's the last reason in this case. Then we're going to talk about, you will have a buyer presentation. Okay, this is the newest Elevate, one of many presentations on Elevate. Awesome choices. This is the one that I've used for the past year that used to be on Elevate, and I thought their first page was a little bland, so I, jazzed it up just a little bit. Still pretty bland.
Art teacher.
Yeah, I know. And I love Adobe, so I like to play. And so anyway, but you will need a complete presentation. We're going to look at this one primarily, and then we're going to go in and I'm going to show you where you can find this on there, but not yet. Okay, but that's what we're looking at. You need a presentation. And even if you feel like, oh my God, this is so much information to give them, I'm going to overwhelm them, stop. Everything you give them has a purpose, and if they're missing a piece of the puzzle, they're missing you. So you need to take everything. You can decide how you're going to present it and go through it, and we're going to do that in a minute. But I have a list of preferred vendors. Equity has a great vendor list on Elevate. Use whichever you want. I've been in the business just long enough to have people I really, really like. You who do not, use Elevates. It's a great list, and many of our people came off of that list. Mm-hmm. But one of the most important pieces of that vendor list are my lenders, of which I have 4. So anyway, that all goes in here also. So your presentation, let me see where. Your preferred vendor list. Okay, it's in your thing.
Goes
now,
in the presentation.
Goes in the presentation. Your buyer's process sheet is something else that's separate, and we're going to go over that in a minute. Your top 5 is also separate because that's for you. And top 5 means don't worry, we'll get to it. Priorities of what they want. All right. I always include, I hope they're down here. No, there they are. I always include home buyer warranty information. I have used Fidelity exclusively for the past 3.5 years, been very unhappy with them, so I need to find somebody new. We're investigating this guy at this point. I've now had Fidelity long enough to have claims, and they have not risen to the occasion, in my opinion. So, if you've used them and they're good, but I make sure that my buyers know about home buyers warranties. We talk about it several different times, which we'll go over in a minute. And anyway, and then I always make sure they have that information for the company that I'm recommending. Just so happens that those are the 2 right now. And then they will always get a buyer's agency, and it's in my presentation. So there it is. I want them to sign it that day, especially if they are soon to be in the market. But they're gonna have this, we're going to review it if they will give me time, and most of the time they do, because after, I would say 96% of the time, it's very unusual that we don't get a buyer's agency signed either that day or that night, because you do have to check for legal name and everything, but everything else is set up for them. And that is my objective with buyer's consult.
So do you bring the contract with their information already in it?
You have to sign that paper one?
I do.
You don't do electronic?
I do. I tell them, let's get this done today so we know that we are a team.
Right.
And that you are going to get the very best service and highest level of confidentiality about your finances and everything, so we can talk about anything. And let's sign this, but when I get home, I'm going to put in that right legal name, and because it's so much easier for us to move forward electronically, then I'll send it over to you. But this binds them to a degree.
Yeah.
It binds them emotionally. It binds them emotionally, and now they feel like they've already signed it. So, and I had a guy who signed it, and we left, and then I sent him over the electronic copy, and he never signed it. And I'm like, what happened? He's a millennial, for starters. So those of you who are millennials, we think differently than I, who am not a millennial. I think that when I've said I'm going to do this, there's no sense of urgency. He had signed the one on paper. It was fine. It was good. And then every time I talk to him, oh yeah, I still owe you that contract. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But my job as an agent to give them the highest level of professionalism, confidentiality, is to be in a buyer's relationship with them. I have had 2 deals that I most likely would have lost, but they were already signed with me. I had one guy call me up because he hated the lender I had referred him to, and he texted me, Pam, how binding is our contract? Oh, hey guy, what is going on? And he thought I was tied to that lender, and his new lender gave him a new agent.
Oh, sure.
The person he picked out of the blue sky gave him a new agent, and so he felt he had to get out of his, when she said, are you tied to some, yep, I signed. So he came back to me. He's happily in his new home with his new now baby and wife, and but I would have lost him had we not had that signed ahead of time. So just keep in mind, that's my objective to a buyer consult.
Now, you said most of your business is coming from referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go on these consults, then you aren't competing with other agents, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, I am not.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, but initially I was. Initially I was competing just like anybody else. Just this past year has that business kind of honed into referrals. And it's a slow start for Vance and I this year, so we're going to have to be doing, in my opinion, we're going to start doing open houses 3 times a month. I'd like to say 1 weekend. But
I love open houses.
I love open houses, and they do bring in people. And yes, have I sat at open houses, many in a row, and not had anybody come through? But then somebody comes through, and it's great. So don't get discouraged if you have bad open houses. But what I'm saying to you is, I'll probably be back to where I'm competing again.
Yeah.
It's an ebb and flow. Right now, I was blessed last year, referral business, but it's going to be that we have to start building again. Okay, so those are the things that you need to have with you at the time and be prepared. Okay, so keep in mind I was a school teacher. I taught art, so everybody thinks that that's a little easier. You have to be very prepared to keep 35 to 40 kids engaged on a regular basis. So preparation is a part of my normal thing, and I spend a lot of time making sure everything is just so that when I walk in, I can go boom, 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 boom. But if you have questions about that, again, let me know. Okay, how are we for time? Does anybody need a bathroom break?
I had to, so.
Yeah, and you're welcome to leave anytime.
What's with the parking? Because I've got 2 hours. Should I run out there at 2
You'll be fine.
change it?
How about the hour ones
never do anything.
on that side?
I don't know. I don't think
I
they.
always park
I would
there.
think so too.
I've been there too.
I've parked there a gazillion times, you're fine.
Okay, so if everybody's good, we can
And
just
watch,
keep
no,
going.
but-
I was gonna say.
All right, so what
Well,
I'd
if
like
you
to
use the
do,
power
I'm gonna run
For
through
the last year.
on a real express thing, sort of what I say at a presentation. But I'm gonna pass around a couple more things that that you may or may not need. So, this is our top 5. I am a firm believer in not getting every piece of information that they want in a home. They're not gonna get it, so why should we discuss it? Why should we spend a lot of time on it? We need 5 main things, and that's what
The top 5.
your top 5 is the top things that they want. So they need to be in Englewood, Littleton, or Centennial.
School district.
Or a school district may be very important. Or it may be very important to have room downstairs where they can put in, if it's not already there, for a mother-in-law or older teenager and they've started a new family or whatever. Those are the things that I want in my top 5. So we're really honed in on the particulars. We can make a lot of other things work.
Right.
And obviously price range and stuff, but we'll talk about that. Now, this may not be so important anymore as it was in the last 3 years, but everybody in the world said, oh, we're in a bubble. This is gonna burst, everything's gonna go to hell, blah, 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 blah. And it's not. So, I'm sending around to you, I can't remember his name. Lenny.
Lenny?
Is it Lenny?
Lenny?
Yeah, Lenny from what mortgage company? This is from his class.
Oh, but he's an amazing class.
It is a glass.
It's Lonnie Glessner.
Lonnie.
Lonnie Glessner. It's on the back.
Yeah.
So if
He
you,
puts out a lot of great classes.
he does a great class on the Denver market, and you should go. But this is his little handout that he handed out at class. I utilize it in my presentation, so you may want to do it also.
You do a brief market update.
Yeah, they need to know about the market.
When did you write this?
He wrote this. I took his class a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So,
But he updates.
and he updates this. So
every
if you contact him, he'll give you an
month. It's
updated
great,
one.
yeah.
The other thing is there's 5 reasons buyers should buy now. And my buyer, who is kind of flaky and who had trouble getting around to signing his buyer's agency, by the way, which he did do electronically. So he is bound, has kind of decided he might rent again. So I have an appointment scheduled with him on Thursday. This is going to be one of the first
He's a
things
millennial.
Yes, he is. Oh, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
I have a couple of millennials.
They
Yeah.
have no.
It's just a different mindset than mine. And so, you just have to kind of work through those things. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk to you about, so up here, I'm going to kind of move so I can see. Does everybody know how to get to Elevate? Log in, get to Elevate, off of equityusa.com? Okay, so when you get into Equity and get into Elevate, you would go to the marketing section, tab, and then, and pardon me if I'm not real good with this, this is Paul's laptop. Why can't I see that? Oh, I'm not an Apple person, so this is, I don't know
It's
how.
definitely different.
Yeah, and it goes away from me. There we go. So then marketing. And then, see? Okay, I just want to get to the scroll thing. I wonder if this is a touch screen. No, it's not. That would be so much
Looks like
better.
you could use some saving.
I think I got it. I think I got it. I'm back where I need to be, I think.
I'll just warn you, I have hot corners set up, so if you move the mouse to the corners really fast, it makes the screen go away like
Yeah,
that.
that's what it was doing.
Yeah. So when it happens, just click anywhere on the desktop and it'll come back.
It'll come back.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Okay, you're gonna go to listing and buying presentations, and then there are a variety of presentations that you can choose from. And I'm gonna try to just quietly go over here. There. The one that I used is the buyer's presentation template, available in 6 color schemes for this, this one. I liked it, but it still didn't have everything that I like in a presentation. So the only reason that we're going here right now is to show you, in case, how many people are really comfortable changing up presentations and stuff?
What do you mean changing up?
Okay, so let's go in.
Adding or taking out?
Editing, adding
No, I won't do
pages, things like that. Is everybody good with that? No. All right, I'm only gonna hit a couple of things for you. And like I said, okay, we're gonna download
PPTX.
Yeah.
Something you need help with
PowerPoint.
What?
I'm gonna do this for you real quick.
Okay.
Macs are always tricky with the PC Mac type stuff.
PowerPoint.
My nose is so itchy. I don't know why.
Keynote.
And what's why
So-
do you like
That's
Keynote?
Apple.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, that's
Apple's
Apple. Okay,
PowerPoint.
Thank
so
you.
that's why I went to PP. So if you got a PC, go to the other one, because that's where I alter mine.
So what is it? What was the other one?
So yeah, let me just.
Keynote
What's your-
for Apple, PPTX for
Oh,
Mac.
no. Keynote version.
Yeah.
Yeah, PPTX is for PCs.
Okay. Or if you have
Keynote
Office, you can use PowerPoint. If you have Office on your computer.
Right, but that's not going to give you that option on here. I mean, you're in PowerPoint on PPTX. You're in PowerPoint. It will save a PowerPoint presentation. And that's what this is. Okay, does that make sense? Okay.
Alright, so Pam, it's pretty much just like PowerPoint now, where you can just.
Now I
click
can, okay. So,
and just hit this if you want to go back to the internet.
okay.
And then just hit it.
Okay.
Oh, nice job.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, so obviously you're gonna need to change phone numbers and, names and put your own photos in. I think everybody is pretty comfortable with that. So we're not gonna spend time on that, but you can customize this in that way, really well. What I wanted to show, and maybe I can't, insert. I just want to put in a new new slide. So this is just a little different. So when you get into a new slide, so I'm going to steal this back from you, Amy. So there's 4 things that they don't talk about. Agency relationships. I feel this is really important. Maybe it was because I was brought up in Keller Williams, but I know Todd and Stacy think it's very important also, but they need to understand the difference between a buyer's agency, seller's agency, and a transaction broker. So this page is not in there, so I went in, did this, and then, double click to edit, blah, blah, blah. Everything then gets to be the same, but you have to go in and do this. I did. And when you go in to add a slide, it'll give you a couple of things. So I picked one that had the thing, instead of being up on the top like that, I just picked one that had it in the middle, because I don't want all my pages to look alike that I add. Questions on that? one of the other pages that I added, so let me run through. I just really wanted to show you where things were, kind of a little roadmap. Are we all comfortable with where you go and how you get into that? Because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it if we don't have to. Okay, so that's all we need on that then. I'm just going to get out of here. All right, so we'll just leave that up. What we're going to do now is kind of tell you a little bit about how I actually do a buyer's presentation. I spend very little time on my actual presentation. This is my leave behind. They keep this, so if they want to peruse it later, have at it. But I'm not reading this to them. I don't want to bore them to tears, and I talk a lot, so our buyer consults are not short anyway, so I don't need to make it longer by boring them to death. So what I do is I say, I'm going to go back to my, see, I use that little list all the time. My little,
this thing?
Yeah, that thing. To make sure I'm hitting all of my
So you
things.
have that with you right there?
Yeah, I have this
Okay.
for me. In addition to this for me, I have a top five for me. I have a copy of the buyer's agency. Mine's in black and white, so I can always tell it apart. So I have pretty much anything I'm giving to them, I have here. I don't do two presentations.
Okay.
So, so I will start with them with, I am so glad that we could be here today, and I do just need to fill out a little bit of information so we can stay in touch no matter when you guys decide to move forward on anything, and then I will go into that profile sheet. I will talk about the business cards. Now, I'm going to give you about 10 business cards, and the reason I'm giving these to you is there are several instances where you may be out on your own, you drive past a house, you see a seller for sale by owner that you really, really, really want to go look at, and I can help you with that. So part of the thing is call me right away if you see a for sale by owner that you want to see, and then I will contact them because we're going to be in a buyer agency, so I'm the one that needs to talk to them. So you just need to give me a holler.
And don't expect them to be nice.
No, as the agent, they're not going to be nice. But I have shown some, never sold any, but. Second thing, Shelley said, open houses. You are going to be out on a Sunday afternoon, and you're going to want to just go to several open houses. Make sure these are in your pocket, because the minute you walk through that door, you're going to hand them to that agent and say, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. This is my agent, and if we have any questions, we'll have her contact you. So, open houses, for sale by owners.
New construction.
New construction. This is the killer. So, you may, we've talked about a little bit that you're not really looking for new construction, but you know what? Things change. They change on a dime. And you're going to want to go in and look at the model homes. You may just want to go and look for ideas. If you show up without me or without my card, it gets to be really sticky because we're in a buyer's agency and we're kind of obligated. So you need to make sure that either I'm with you and I'm happy to go. Drop of the hat. Had some clients call on a Saturday afternoon. My husband and I were out getting the propane tanks filled. They said, we're at the mobile home, or the model home. We really want to walk inside. 5 seconds, we'll be there. And we took off. Propane tanks in the back. So, educate your buyers on the pitfalls that can show up. And getting them to understand that this is very important, that we all go together as a group. If sometimes even giving them your card isn't enough, you have to be there physically to have them. But honestly, most of the new construction people that I've met have been very kind and have said if they hand you a card,
Right.
they're not going to mess with them, and they know they're working with someone. So, but if you haven't given them 10 business cards to haul around with them, you could not. Referrals, we'll work on that down the line when they know how wonderful we are. Okay, so those are the reasons: FSBOs, open houses, new construction. All right, so now we're going to talk about our presentation. So what I've done is I've prepared a packet for you that will give you a lot of the information that we are looking for. Obviously, Vance and I are here on the front, and I walk them through it like this. This tells you a little bit about Vance and I, our backgrounds, etc. Boom. Who wants to really talk about that? So we'll move on. This tells you a little bit about how long we've been in real estate. This tells you a little bit about our company. This is a roadmap that you probably are not going to need as much as something else that we're going to be going over in just a few minutes. I go through a complete buyer's process with them. This has got some holes in it, but it's good for them to have as a reminder. Agency relationships, and then I go in and tell them, this is what we're going to do for you as a buyer's agent. You get the highest level of confidentiality if you're concerned about talking to us about finances, and you're just worried about that. Once you've signed a buyer's agency, I can't talk to anybody else about you. I can't talk about your finances. I can't talk about your motivations. I can't talk about anything except with your permission. So this is like signing a confidential agreement with your lawyer or your doctor or whatever. I believe, just a side note, that this is one of the reasons people have no trouble signing a buyer's agency with us. It gives them a benefit. It's not like, sign here, I want to be your sales agent. It's not. It's so that we can work together in perfect harmony. We discuss what a seller's agent is and what a transaction broker is, and that's, you have problems to talk to Stacy, talk to Todd, something. Then, here are some questions for you. Are you really ready to buy? Do you have a steady income? Have you had your job for a couple of years? I am not going to ask you all these questions, but the lender will, and you just need to know some of the things that they're going to be looking for. So there's a list of that. A lot of times they will start giving information at that point. They want to convince you they're capable. I don't ask too much, but we get a lot of information at that point. One of the things that I changed in our presentation was this page, getting pre-approved. So when you look at the one that you've got, I took out, they had a list of a credit score and things that are not in my realm. That's the lender's side. What I chose in getting pre-approved was giving them my list of 4 excellent lenders. And I talk a little bit about them. I tell them they're in no particular order, although they are. But I tell them they're not, so that they can pick whoever they want to. Well, call all 4 of them. I highly recommend they call all of them.
You have to assure them as well that you aren't getting anything in return.
Yes, and I guess that normally comes up. Yeah, we get, and the reason,
vendors.
Yeah, we have to be very careful. We can't even give gifts to lenders either, to anything. So yes, that's kind of a part of what we talk about as well, but make sure that's in there. You're not getting kickbacks.
Is that the point where you talk about the speed of the market and a stronger offer includes a lender letter with pre-approval?
Yes. Well, no, I talk about that in another minute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not there.
but not there. This is just giving them the information, assuring them we're not getting kickbacks. Pick anybody you want, in no particular order.
Okay.
I mean, I like the guy that's in first place, but after that, I really don't care. So if they pick the first one, fine. If they don't, they're all good. They're all good. This is another page I added, which I think they need to see in writing, which are the 4 things that they cannot do as a, I'll hold this up, when they're purchasing a home. Don't charge things, don't go buy things, don't switch banks, don't pay off loans, any kind of loan. Don't do anything without talking to your lender. You can talk to me, but I'm going to send you to the lender. So, but these are the 4 things that they should absolutely not do.
And it's important to tell them that.
Yeah, I think so. And
I had a
think
guy
they
who bought
have
a
to
car the
see
night
it
before
in
closing.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I had a lady who has bought and sold, gosh, 4 or 5 homes in her lifetime. She's 77 years old. She went out and bought, because she was buying a new construction, she went and bought all her furniture 2 weeks before we closed. She had to cancel all her orders. I mean, it was, what are you doing? She knew it, and she panicked. Well, actually, her daughter panicked and called me. She said, what are you doing? So these are 4 things that they should absolutely not do. I firmly believe in reviewing it and then having them have it in writing, and then I can always point them back to it unless they've thrown my presentation in the trash. So this is your home search, and this is what I'm going to say. We're going to review your top 5 priorities, because in this market we need to really hone in on the most important things for you, and we're going to review that in a minute. Again, you spend less than a millisecond per page. Lots of places you can find homes: Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Call Me, on anything. Most of the time those search engines are behind the times, so you're going to be all excited about a house that you see and it's under contract. So if you call me, I can save you a lot of time. Even better, use the portal that I'm sending you and send you things. But you'd be surprised, I send things, they don't open those, then they send me the same address off Zillow.
Yeah.
So,
Millennials love Zillow.
they do, they love it.
All the time.
As we get a lot more involved, we're going to talk about how we make an offer, all of the things about pricing, what happens once that offer is accepted. We're going to talk about that in a minute. This is a few of the things that are in addition to your down payment that you will need to have money for at closing. So on the one, I did some adjustments on this too. On the one in Elevate, it had title insurance, which is not a buyer's responsibility, so I took that out. It didn't have HOA things, and almost everything, it seems like, has an HOA these days, so I added that. There was something else I changed on there too. I can't remember. But anyway, I did some adjustments on this. So make sure that if you're using this presentation, go through and see if you like the list that's there. But this starts to give them a clue that there's more to it than just having a down payment or even just having earnest money. So, closing day is the most exciting day. We close. We'll talk about that more. You do need a Colorado ID of some sort. I also add client testimonials, which are not in this presentation. So another page that, and obviously you guys who are new won't have these, but I will have to tell you, I don't know that people read these. These are probably within my first 7 deals, and I'm not really good about asking for them now, and I should. So I'll get better, but at least I have some, so you need to feel comfortable. Okay, this is a copy of the buyer's agency. We're not going to review that right now. We're going to come back to that, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And I'm talking to my client just like that. This is what it is. We're going to come back to that. So I would like you, this is, what time is it? Okay, good. This takes about a half an hour. So I think we're actually, we go to noon, don't we? Mm-hmm. Oh, great. So we'll get through this and still have time for questions later. To me, this is the bread and butter to my presentation. The presentation is icing on the cake. This is the meat and potatoes before dessert. So I go through this in great detail. We'll talk about it. It sounds very complicated, so I don't want this to sound or to be too overwhelming. So take two. What I want you to take is a blank one that you can copy and make copies of if you want to. This is not something that's mandatory or even, I highly recommend it, but I've taught this class quite a few times. People seem to love this, but it does take some work to learn, and so I'm not sure anybody uses it but me still. But I think it's...
I always want to.
I know you do, but Shelley's a prime example. She has seen this presentation many, many times, and she doesn't use it. I'm going to...
But I'm going to.
Okay. Can I ask Paul if I can just close his laptop and move it? Can I? Or if I have to turn it off somehow.
I know you can just close it later.
I can just close it?
Real quick question about the lender list.
Yes.
I noticed that's blank. Like,
And lender
is there,
list.
well, on Elevate, you know, when you have your preferred lender list, does everyone have their own individual, or does Equity like have
A recommended vendor.
yeah,
Yeah, they have the
recommended
vendor
one
list.
Do they have
that
that?
they have filled out?
You mean an Elevate? In
Yeah.
Elevate is blank?
There's already
There was one that said it was just blank, and I was like, oh no,
to fill in
that's
your
not
own.
what I need.
No, it's not to fill in. You just need to find the real one.
Okay.
It's on
It's there.
Elevate, but it's definitely pinned to the top of the Equity Facebook page.
Okay, maybe
The
I need to
vendor
look
list.
there. Okay.
I think it's hard to find, which is why I created mine.
Right, well, when you
And I
establish
had
yourself,
people,
like,
I have people that I like.
no idea.
Exactly, so
I
you
was
just,
used to be a lender, so.
Right, and I was actually gonna hit you up.
Yeah, the Fairway mortgage is amazing.
Yeah, I have that, and I work with
Fairway.
we've had good luck with them too.
Mhm.
Are they local or national?
Can I ask just a quick question on
National.
your
Sure.
But the office that I work at
Yes.
is over at
I
Southlands.
notice you have
And
Because I
your
live by
company
myself,
plus
but I thought,
equity,
you know, I
Right.
don't need a lender
which I know
necessarily
we have to have
find
equity
me,
on everything that we do.
you know,
Right.
like, I don't know, like,
you
But
can work all
you're
over the state when I was a
mixing them
lender.
up with your
I don't do it
company
anymore. I
also.
get
I
with
do.
my
So
license.
some
but I'll
of the
connect
pages
you
only
with
have your
Kelly,
company
my old
on it.
boss.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they only have a little tiny
Yeah.
spot for one, and I just stuck Belyea. on
So
there.
legally, since it's one presentation, do you just need
As-
equity on the front page
I
and
think
that's
that
it?
as long as equity is
there?
they know, that's my understanding. And Todd and Stacy, if you're watching this, you can clarify that for us, because I don't know, I assume that with equity being on everything that I do,
I think it's the equity
Good
call.
idea.
It's like,
Yeah, and do you find it confusing for people to have two companies they have to think about?
No.
Okay.
no, we've never had any confusion with
So many companies have teams that have their names.
Their name
You
and-
know, that they go by,
Yeah,
that you're affiliated with Equity.
okay.
Okay, so, once we get to this point in the presentation, I tell them, okay, what we're gonna do here is I'm going to fill this out for you, we're gonna talk about this, and this is going to be, you could take this home and hang this on their refrigerator. I want to plant that seed. I want this to hang on their refrigerator. I want them to see what the exact process is. If they have any questions, they can go to this. So that's kind of how I start out. I said, this is going to give you every step of the way from now as we start. Did you guys
I
get
did
it?
not take two, I
You need
apologize.
two. Oh, you need two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can have just one.
Thank you.
But I'm going to use John as my actual client. So John, don't you worry about filling one out. I will give you my filled out one
Okay.
when we're done. But I think it's always easier, and John, I expect you to now get into the role as a first-time home buyer
Okay.
and ask questions that you think are pertinent to if you're just getting started buying a home.
Okay.
Okay, so so John, you know, any questions on that presentation at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of information right away.
It is.
Kind of take in with the whole process and what's involved, so, you know, right now, feeling overwhelmed.
Okay, so that's why this little sheet
Okay.
will start to lay things out in a more organized manner, because it is a lot of information. Which is the other reason that this goes home with you and not with me, because I
Okay.
know the stuff, but you'll have it, you can look at it or not as you see fit.
Okay.
And like I told you, we'll come back to that buyer agency part of it, because that is integral to our whole thing here, but this is the piece that you are really gonna need to understand and you'll have questions about.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is, I know in the presentation I gave you 4 lenders. Have you picked a lender yourself from some other place?
No.
No. So I'm gonna just pick one out of the
Okay.
blue sky. I'm gonna use Tina's name because she's second, as opposed to, because again, no particular order. Nothing comes back to me. I don't care who you use. However, I will say this, no internet mortgage companies.
Okay.
I really, really, really want you to work with a real person. It can be somebody else here in town, doesn't have to be on my list at all.
Okay.
So if you have a friend, brother, sister, somebody who's used a lender that they really, really like and has done a good job for them, as long as they are a real person who I can go sit in their office when something's not happening that I need to have happen and you need to have happen, use whoever you like. We're just gonna pick Tina's name for now.
Okay.
So you
I have a
picked,
question.
okay,
Especially with first-time home buyers, because I think they're real, it's scary. It's scary to go to a lender.
Yeah.
And I used to tell people, always check with more than one. Don't feel like you've got to stay with that first one, and if you didn't feel quite right, go to the next. Because they think that when they go to a lender,
that
they
is
have,
written in
that's the
stone.
person they have to use.
That is a part of that conversation here with the 4 names.
Okay.
That is,
Okay, good.
so that's ahead of
That's what I
time.
wanted.
Yes,
Okay.
I always stress, because, you know, I have had people that I think somebody's great and they don't like them at all. So, yes, I listen to what she's saying.
Okay.
Okay.
So I can shop.
You can shop. Oh, and maybe that's the best thing. I think I say that when I'm back here, but absolutely shop for the lender that meets your expectations and personally you feel good about it.
Okay.
Also, a lot of times, your own bank may provide a slightly better incentive to use them. And that's wherever you bank, they know you.
But banks are not as good, in my opinion,
I agree.
I agree.
as individual mortgage companies.
But I've always said,
Yeah.
go to your bank, and then
Yeah.
talk to
shop.
other ones, and then see what
still shop.
compare.
Yeah.
Right, still shop it.
Shopping is primary.
Definitely.
So, I just want you to have a real capable, qualified lender
Okay.
who we can both, because we become a team. You, the lender, myself, in this case Vance. Now, one of the things that once you have gotten pre-qualified, pre-approved, Tina in this case will give us what we call a lender letter.
Okay.
That's going to give us, she's going to look at certain things. She's not going to do the whole in-depth, although some do the whole pre-qualification so that really they're ready to rock and roll. And again, depends on the lender that you choose.
Okay.
But they're going to give you a price range. So let's say that Tina says that you are approved up to $425,000.
Okay.
That lender letter is going to state that. It's going to show that you're doing a conventional loan. It may or may not have that interest rate in there. It's going to show that it's a 30-year fix, blah, blah, blah. We have to have this lender letter. This goes with your offer. So this has to happen a long time ahead of us actually getting to an offer. So you need to start working on that.
Okay. So before I work with you, I've got to work with a lender.
Well, we're working in conjunction.
Okay.
Yeah, because right away you're going to get excited and hopefully you're going to want to go out and look at things. And that lender, I can send him MLS listings and say, okay, here's it's a little more than 425, but there's no HOA. And da-da-da-da. And so we work very closely together on making sure that that monthly payment is staying where you need it to be or what you're qualified for, so that we're never looking at something that you are not actually qualified to put an offer in right then and there.
And a
Okay.
lot of times, first-time home buyer really doesn't really know exactly what they qualify for.
Well, not until a lender looks at it.
Okay.
They may have a wish list, but that may not be accurate in any way, shape,
So
or
does it
form.
have more to do with the amount or the payment?
Well, it has more to do with the payment, because the payment is what the lender is going to actually approve you on.
Okay.
It's on that total thing. So insurance,
Taxes.
taxes, HOA, and principal and interest.
And private mortgage insurance.
And if that applies, private mortgage insurance.
Right.
And so on a regular basis, that lender and I are talking consistently to make sure that we are looking at homes. Because if they send me something on Zillow, it's maybe $425, but the taxes are $3,000 and the HOA is $565 a month, and they're knocked way out of the park.
Yeah.
So this is why it's important to have somebody that you really trust, that you
Okay.
like, and are very comfortable working with.
Okay.
So let's just say that you get approved for $425. Generally, as a rule, just so you know, I never pick a number this high with a first-time home buyer.
No.
I'm working at $250 or $300 just to make things reasonable in their eyes. But I'm figuring John's got a little more
You don't
money.
want to get expectations up?
No,
Is
we
that-
don't.
yeah.
We want to make sure that if they find out they're actually qualified for $325, that it's like, oh, hooray! You know, I want to keep things down. But
Okay.
this is just side note. All right, so once your lender has approved you for this, the other thing that we really need to talk about at this point in time is your earnest money. Do you know what earnest money is?
No.
Okay, so earnest money is kind of a good faith cash deposit on a house that you're interested in doing. Most of the time, as a rule, it used to be about 1% of the total purchase price. So in this case, maybe $4,000 earnest money. But these days, what we're seeing is the agents are really, really, really trying to protect their sellers from people putting out maybe multiple offers, which they're not allowed to do, but they do anyway. So they are making their earnest money substantial. I have seen it up to $10,000 on a $400,000 house. So I'm going to put $10,000, although that's more unlikely.
So
At this
who
point in
determines
time,
that amount?
the seller and their agent, what they are asking for.
Okay.
Okay, so they,
Because you just said buyers might
Did I
put
say it?
more. Well, are there competitive buyers might put in more?
oh yeah, competitive buyers could put down more. Whether they would or not depends on the competition. It's more
Yeah.
likely that there are other places that they will be competitive than
Okay.
on earnest money. That's
Okay.
not necessarily going to happen. So my question to you, John, is do you have a bare minimum of about $4,000? Keep in mind, this is money that if you hand me a check, which it would be in a personal check, that I take directly to the title company and they cash it that day. So do you have that amount? Do you see where this is coming in the process? Right at the beginning. Right at the beginning. You need to know, is this guy prepared to move forward? And so John, do you have 4,000?
Yes, I have that amount, but my question is, how much, is that the only thing I need to have for
No.
a down payment?
No, it is not. So this will apply to your down payment.
Okay.
So let's say that you are going on an FHA loan, which I'm going to go back up here to Tina. She can qualify you for an FHA loan, a conventional loan. Were you ever in the military?
No.
No. So not a VA. So FHA is only going to require 3.5% down.
Okay.
All right. So off 425, I can't do this number in my head. Anybody fast?
Gotta get my phone out.
All right. I'll just pick a number.
So 3.5 that's quite a bit.
3.5 is still quite a bit.
Yeah.
15,000.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
tell me?
15,000.
15,000. Oh, I'm better than I
15.
thought. Okay. So 15,000 is going to be the amount you need down here
Okay.
for an FHA loan, of which 4,000 has already been paid.
Okay, so that goes.
So that goes to that down
Okay.
payment.
It's not above. over
It's
and
not
above.
over and above. There are closing costs, though, that you will need to pay that are lender charges,
Okay.
prorated taxes, prorated HOA, recording fees, 1 year's worth of insurance, homeowners insurance. They may take 2 months ahead of HOA. So we're talking somewhere between 15 and 22,000 that we're going to need to close on an FHA loan. If you're going conventional, there are lenders who can offer a 3% loan on conventional. More regularly, it's 5%. And then if you have money, they may give you a better rate if you do 10% down, 15% down, 20% down. So these are lender questions, but you do need to talk to them both about FHA and conventional.
Okay.
And then get those numbers set aside.
Okay.
Any questions on what we're reviewing here? Anything from you other veterans that you want to add to that?
I'm just confused on what we're filling out on this form.
Okay, you'll get there.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
we're
just
not there
bear
yet.
with me. We're just in the, this is a role-playing thing, so.
Right, yeah, if John, for example, is qualified for 425,000, okay, I understand what you're saying, but when we look at home, do we have to look something closer to that one or way down? Any idea?
Well, that's good question, excellent question. Depending on the market. So last year, May, qualified for 425, we're looking at 400. Because we're gonna have to offer more to win the bid. There are strategies, that is another class entirely, I'm not even gonna touch on them. But there are other strategies and tools that you can use to get them in, but they have to be able to raise up and get to this price. They need to, at that point in time, they needed to beat the $400,000 price tag by anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 more, and they had to be capable to pay for that. They also had to be capable of coming up with the additional money that might have been needed if it only appraised at $400, but sold at $415. So there's a $15,000 thing. So these are other issues, but excellent question. The market will dictate where you are looking. In a buyer's market, which I've not been in yet, we're kind of getting there. But I haven't been there. I'm not old enough in real estate to be there. But in a buyer's market, then you're looking at $450 and you're qualified for $425. So it just depends on the market at that point. Right now, I think we're pretty much, what I've seen is offers are coming in pretty much at list. And depending on the condition of the house, maybe a tad over. If it's great, maybe a tad higher. So the market dictates it.
And I would think too, the one thing you have to watch is that if your person is buying like a condo or a townhouse, being a first-time buyer, the HOAs are huge.
They are huge.
Because they can be $140 a month, or they can be $500, like Pam was saying, $500 a month. That has such a huge reflection on their payment.
So you have to be watching all of that, and taxes. Okay, so John, moving on, we've established that you have $4,000 that can be immediately liquid. That is huge. You have to know that they're going to cash that check within a day. Okay. Alrighty. Now moving on, what I'm going to be reviewing with you now, this is just prep for you.
Okay.
We need to get you with a lender, we need to get you qualified, and we need to know that you've got the basic money to close and your earnest money. Now, your lender's going to talk to you if you don't have that $15,000 to $20,000, a gift is fine, and other things. But that's kind of out of my realm. What we're going to talk about now is what you can expect once we've decided on a home that you really, really want, and it's affordable.
Okay, so we've gone out, we've picked one, we put an offer in.
Right,
Okay.
and that is our very first line here, to make offer.
Okay.
This is when, now keep in mind, the seller pays my commission.
Okay.
All right? But this is when I start earning my money. When we make an offer, I start negotiating on your behalf. So negotiations are what, anybody can go out and show houses. You could pay somebody $10, $15, $40 a house, something, to go show houses. That same person, they do have to be licensed, just so you know. Can't be your sister. It has to be licensed. But a lot of people are qualified to walk into a house and go, oh, isn't this pretty, and oh, isn't this pretty? But once we've made an offer, that's when my skills as a negotiator really start to come into play, and what you are really getting the benefit of. So we make an offer. We talk about, is this a good price, $425 for this particular house? Should we be offering less? Should we be offering more? Do we need to put some strategies in place to win against 3 other bidders? So that's what's going to happen at the make an offer.
Okay.
We're going to assume that I am skilled at my job. I am.
Okay.
Okay. And you get under contract. So that's our next line here, under contract. And guys, if you don't write everything down, don't worry about it, because you can't see me. I can't have you all close here. But I am going straight across line by line. I have one, and I'll have this one done, but this one's probably nicer. I have one in here that I filled out when I wasn't trying to do it for a person. We can make copies of this and I'll hand them out. You're more than happy to do that. So take notes, absolutely, but overall, don't freak out if you haven't got it. All right, so John, when we go under contract, when we have an accepted, signed, executed offer, it now becomes a contract, and that's when we need a check for $4,000. That's when that cash comes right into place.
All right.
Okay. The next thing that happens after we're under contract, and it happens quickly within the first week or so, you're going to hire an inspection to be done on the house, which is going to cover quite a few things. We want to know that it's a good house. So an inspection is going to run you about, on a $400,000 house, somewhere between $400 and $500. Okay, which goes right there.
Okay, and who pays for that?
And you pay for that.
Okay.
And you pay for it that day.
Okay.
You will not
So
get a
that
report.
money
So
too.
that money,
Okay.
and that is the reason we're doing this, Mindy. So they know, oh, I may have 3 weeks, but I got to have $500 by the time I'm ready to put an offer in. So I have to have 4,000 plus 500. Okay. All right. So that 400 to 500, the inspector judges his costs by the age of the house, the size of the house, the location. So if we're looking up in Bailey, he may charge you a little travel time. Or if it's a 100-year-old house, he may charge you more because he's having to look at more things. If it's basically, and you can get an inspection on new construction as well. If it's on new construction, it might not be as much. Condo, townhome, much less than a $6,000 home. A 6,000 square foot home.
Okay.
Okay. So in your price range, we're probably going to see about that cost. Those things, that amount of money covers the basic infrastructure of the house. So it covers, and this is in this line of things, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, structural. If it's a detached home, the roof. If it's an HOA roof, we're not going to go up there, take a look at, but we will be looking at furnace and things if it's to that unit. And health and safety. So I'm going to review a few of these things with you. What this means is if the carpet needs to be stretched, he may note that, but that's really not something that he covers. He's going to be looking at the furnace to make sure that it's newer. He'll tell you the age, the hot water heater. He's going to check every outlet in the house to make sure the outlets are working. He doesn't look at a wall in the house that's peeling. If you are going FHA, you and I, are going to be looking at the exterior of the home to make sure that there's no peeling paint, because if there are, you can't get an FHA loan.
Okay.
That person would have to paint the house, whatever parts, before we could get an FHA loan.
Okay.
But that inspector is looking at those items. There are 2 other tests that I highly recommend, one of which is radon. That's going to run anywhere from 100 to 150.
Okay.
And then a sewer scope. Very important. Do you know what either one of those things are?
I know what a sewer scope is with radon.
Okay, radon is an odorless, colorless gas that we have a lot of in Colorado. It seeps up from the ground and in through cracks in foundations. It's particularly high levels in a basement.
Okay.
So if you are buying a ranch that doesn't have a basement, it's sort of up to you, but we always recommend it because if it's coming in through the slab and you're sleeping in a bedroom, it's still good to know. But it's more likely to sit in basements. And the reason we're checking for it these days is it has been documented that it causes lung cancer. I couldn't quote you the stats, but if you've got a child sleeping in a basement, you want to know if there's radon down there.
Okay.
A lot of homes these days that we see already have radon mitigation done.
Okay.
That is somewhere around $1,000 to do, to
So
put the
who pays for
mitigation in.
that?
Well, that's going to be a negotiation.
Okay.
We're going to get to that. So let's say we do the inspection.
Yeah.
You did the radon, we did the sewer scope. The sewer scope is fine, looks great. The radon is 7, 4 is the max. So it's not terrible, but it's high. It's higher than it should be. And your 12-year-old is going to sleep down there.
Okay.
It's high for a 12-year-old to sleep down there. Okay. Also, there's a leaky toilet, and the roof looks like it could use a little help. So we'd like a roof cert.
Okay.
What happens is, back up here under inspection, we put together an inspection objection. What that means then, inspection objection, that we're going to take those things, but this is a negotiation. We may not get everything. And then you have to decide, do you really want to move forward? Or this is the very first place you can terminate
Okay.
and get your earnest money back. What you don't get back is your inspection stuff.
Okay.
That's paid. He did his job.
Money that's
It's
gone.
money that's gone. But if you really didn't like this house, you could get your money, your $4,000 back, and we start looking again.
Okay.
So Mindy, that's the other part to this, the 5 places that you can walk. And this is so important for your buyers to know. So I always just put a little 1 next to that. That's the first place that you could walk. But in the meantime, you really like the house. We put together this reasonable list.
Okay.
We ask for the leaky toilet to be fixed. We ask for a radon mitigation system. We ask for a furnace to be cleaned and certified, because that's just sort of a given. You should be asking for that all the time. And in this case, the roof doesn't look new, it doesn't look bad, but we'd like to have a 5-year roof cert.
Okay.
And if it doesn't pass, we want the roof replaced. So those are the things that we're asking for. A couple of things are pretty substantial, but we're going to put that together. So we write that up, you sign it, we send it.
Okay.
They have usually a couple of days to come back. Oh, sorry, back up. See the star at the bottom? This is where we also ask for a home buyer's warranty. And it goes into the objection. It is a part and parcel of your objection. So we're going to ask for all those things and a 1-year home buyer's warranty provided by the seller.
So you always ask for that?
Every time. And that's why I start, because I always forget on here to tell you about it. But that is it's a very important time to talk about it. A home buyer's warranty will protect you for a year of anything that happens to a degree. So the hot water heater goes out. I've had those replaced. with no charge, $65 trip fee, but they replace the hot water heaters. Gets a little touchier on furnaces. They have a set amount. So you have to be careful, but it certainly is going to protect you on leaky pipes and things of that nature. So we're going to ask them to buy it.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
want them to pay
All
for
right,
it.
now stepping out of the role,
Okay.
in this market, will that cause a seller to say, you know what, we got multiple offers?
Yeah.
No,
We're
you're
not
already,
gonna be-
you're under contract. This is your house.
Yeah, but they can come back and say, we're not gonna fix any of those things.
And that's where we're going next.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
The other thing,
They-
just to mention, when you look at MLS, I would say probably 50% of them are, the
Ne-
seller is providing a home warranty.
Because everybody's getting more aware of
Because
it.
the sellers and the realtor who's selling it doesn't want to be under any issues
Mhm.
After.
Because it
from the
protects everybody.
disclosures.
Yes, exactly.
From
It
that
protects the
first
seller and
disclosure.
that agent from any latent defects that he thinks they actually
Right.
knew about, but they didn't.
But also, they'll kick in so that they're actually protecting the seller during the time that their house is on the market.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, you do pay a little bit extra for that, but
But it's there.
as agents, we pay for that. We want that to happen right
It's
away.
all protecting yourself, because everyone's
So-
so litigious.
Yeah,
Litigious these
litigious, yes. So what happens is they get that list
Okay.
and they have a few days to review it, but they have a deadline to resolve it. So an inspection resolution. At that inspection resolution, they've had a chance to look at things and they say, oh, sure, we'll fix the toilet and we will absolutely do a furnace thing. And we're pretty sure the roof's okay, so we'll pay the $200 for a roof cert. That's fine. We're not going to do radon. We're just not going to. And that's what comes back to us. And now we need to sit down and say, okay, it's your choice. You have till midnight that night of the resolution deadline to walk away and get your $4,000 back. Or you can say, well, they did everything else. Oh, and they are doing the home buyer's warranty. I'll take care of the radon. I'll do the radon once we move in. But you're aware of it. You know you need it. It's something that's on your thing.
Okay.
Or they could say, well, we aren't going to do any of this work because we're tired and we're old and we just want to get out of our house, but we'll give you $1,500 at closing.
Okay.
So those are some choices. It's a negotiation. And at that point, we're talking and we decide what you want to do based on information that I feel as a professional you need to have to make an educated decision.
Okay.
So, based on that, John, what do you say? Should we go ahead with this contract or do we want to start over?
I'd say we go ahead.
Okay, fine. So, we move on, and once we're through resolution, that lender is busy and he is ordered an appraisal. Or she. That is going to now run you, it used to be $500 to $600. It seems like it's more in the range of $800 to $900. Does anybody else have a price tag that they like?
We charged $800.
Yep, 800. That's what I'm seeing. It when I started 4 years ago, it was 500. Now it's 8. So that also, two places this can happen, John. Your lender, depending on your lender, and it might be one of your criteria that you ask all of those lenders that you're interviewing. Will you be making me pay for my appraisal at the time of appraisal, or will that come out at closing? Because it could happen either way.
Okay, when you say it comes out at closing,
It gets added into your closing costs.
okay, so that's not part of my loan.
It's not
another-
part of your
I gotta
loan.
bring
It's
that to closing.
Yeah, if you don't pay for it here,
Yeah.
you'll probably pay for it here. I do have a couple of lenders who will pay for my clients' appraisals. I don't know why or how. It could, I don't know. It's not my deal, so that's something, but it is a good qualifying question that you need to be
So I
asking
need to
your
ask them
lenders.
that. Okay.
Mhm. So, you may pay for it here. If
Okay.
you pay for it here and we walk later, you will lose that too. So to be clear.
So it's better to push it to the end.
I like it here for all of us.
Yeah.
I just like it better.
Okay.
Okay. So what does an appraisal entail? An appraisal is the location of the home, the condition of the home, any amenities they may have, like does it have amenities? Sorry, does it have a air conditioning? So the amenities would maybe be air conditioning, a garage, a 1-car, a 2-car, a 3-car. All of those things get factored in. So 3-car garage. When I say location, I do not mean Wheat Ridge or Arvada. I'm talking about, does it back to a warehouse? Does it back to an apartment complex? Does it back to open space? Is it on a cul-de-sac? Is it anything that would impact the price? And so that appraiser is very knowledgeable about how much to add if it's the last house on a cul-de-sac versus the one that's at the side street that's a busy street. So that's what location means, not area.
Okay.
The condition, if it's in bad condition, it's not going to qualify for FHA. If it's a conventional loan, they're far easier on, but then it still impacts the price of that home.
Okay.
Upgrades. So when that listing agent meets with the appraiser, as a buyer's agent, I'm not allowed to, so you and I are out of the thing. Even though you pay for this, I can't talk to them and you can't talk to them. So that listing agent will meet with them, and because they're trying to get the most money for their buyer, they're going to try and make sure it appraises. So they're going to give them a whole packet, comps, all the upgrades that seller has done, anything that's wonderful, where it's located, the amenities of the neighborhood, the town, the whatever. So that is all going to happen at appraisal. When he goes back to sit at his desk and do the appraisal, he's going to look at comps that are within, the comps are going to be the solds in the last 90 days. Okay, they're not going to probably go back, and they may even go less nowadays because the market 90 days ago is so very different than the market today. So they may only go back 60 days. And when we were first in the market, they were only going back 60 days. Then it went out to 90. Now I think it's back to 60. So solds within the last 90 days in the same subdivision or within a mile of that home. So if it's rural, they're going to go out a mile. But if there's a subdivision, they're going to try and stay in the subdivision.
Okay.
They're only going to go 200 square feet higher or lower than the subject property, your property. And they're going to make sure they're in the same style. So if it's a ranch, they're only going to look at ranches. If it's a 2-story, they're only going to look at 2 stories. So just because the ranch next door sold for $10,000 more means nothing to this appraisal.
Okay.
Questions on an appraisal?
So, and why are they looking at all that?
Because they are determining for the lender if this house is valued at what you're willing to pay for it.
Okay.
Because you may be willing to pay, maybe it's just where you've always wanted to live. We had a client wanted to live right next door to his mom and dad. He wanted that house. He didn't care what it was. He really didn't. I don't care. I want that house.
Okay.
But we still had to make sure it appraised for what he was willing to pay for it, because otherwise he had to bring $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to the table to make up the difference between appraised value, what the lender will lend on, and the actual purchase price.
So the lender only gives enough money to what it appraises to?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that happening
their
a lot?
loan on it.
I've had very good luck with appraisals, so it does happen. Yeah, mine have been good, so knock on wood, we hope that continues to happen.
It seems
but
as though appraisers have kind of caught up in, because I think for a while
they're not
they
as
were
crazy.
They were having trouble. They were like living in this lag back here.
They were along with all of our other people that are 6 months behind.
Yeah.
But they seem to have caught up.
Lately,
They're not as, in my opinion, I haven't had an adversarial
might
appraiser.
have appraised. What I'm not seeing anymore is that buyers are willing to put a lot of money on top of the appraisal anymore.
Yeah,
I
appraisal,
don't think
yeah.
we're in that crazy market
No, we're not.
anymore. So
Thank goodness. Yeah, so I think that things are being priced more accurately. There's not as many buyers, so we're getting under contract at a more reasonable price, even if it's a couple thousand more. It's not $20,000 or $30,000. I mean, we were seeing ridiculous amounts a couple years ago, even May.
Even last year.
Yeah, even last year.
Beginning of last year, yeah.
So,
I have a question. Are these the same criteria that you use when you're doing comps
exactly.
to price a house?
I do.
Exactly the same.
Exactly
Okay,
the
because
same.
I always wonder, 90 days, 180. The default on the MLS is 180, so I was like.
Right, now that's too far back.
I do have another question. When
Sure.
you, and it's back from the beginning, when you are talking about making an offer, did you talk with them about how you do your comps to see if the price is right for them? That's part of your job.
Yes, and I think I said that back there, is that we will be doing the comps so that we know you're offering the correct amount. But yes,
Okay.
that absolutely happens there.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you
I
don't
missed
want
that.
them just
accepting
willy-nilly
the price.
accepting what
Right.
that is, or willy-nilly saying, yeah, I don't think it's worth that, it's worth $50,000 less. No,
Right.
it really is worth this. So,
Right.
but on both sides of the coin, you're making sure that we're offering the right amount. Because we want it to appraise.
Right.
We always want, that's
I mean,
always in the
part of our
background.
job is to get as close as the appraisal.
Absolutely. As
Right.
close to the appraisal, we'd like to be right on the money. Or even if we ended up a little less, he walks in with equity. And I have had that happen. So, okay, so once that appraisal is done, it comes back in anywhere from 3 days to 15 days, depending on the appraiser. If we didn't like that appraisal, that's number 2, where we could walk away and say, nope, it didn't appraise, I don't have the money to make up the difference, so I gotta find something else. We have lost some money here, but you still get your $4,000 back.
Okay.
Okay, so that's number 2. While all of that is going on, the lender is proofing documents, and then under this little first triangle, I write HOA and title. So what happens is you're going to receive the HOA documents. John, I cannot stress this enough. They're boring. They're a drag. Read them. Read all of it. It's awful. I'm not going to. You have to. So, and I tell my people that. I am not going to read their HOA docs for them.
Well, because your objections may
My-
not be the same as theirs.
I
or
may,
vice versa.
I may think, oh, I wouldn't get this house. You can't have anything bigger than a 35-pound dog. Because my dogs are 60-pound or whatever. But you may not care about that because you're never going to have a dog. Or you're never going to have a storage shed. Or you are going to have a storage shed. I didn't even think of a storage shed. So that's why I don't read them, because my criteria for looking at them is going to be completely different.
Okay.
But you need to know, if this is another place that we need to dump and run, that's number 3. HOA docs. You can walk away. And get your $4,000 back.
Okay.
Okay. Title is the same thing. All the way back from the time we went under contract, title has been busy, researching, doing their title searches, checking to make sure there aren't any easements, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden we find out that indeed that guy's driveway is halfway on your property. Now, it didn't bother these guys because when they moved in, the guy put the driveway in, they were best friends, didn't matter, they all had beers, they put the driveway in together.
Okay.
But you want that 6, 8, 10 feet of your property.
I don't know that guy.
No, you don't know him, you don't like him, and you haven't had beers with him.
Yeah.
So, that might be the
Okay.
4th place that we end up leaving. So again, boring. Now, I will review title docs, but you need to also be reading those title docs and call me with any questions, and then I'm going to send you right over to the title escrow officer,
Okay.
and she'll either explain it, or we had one come back with a $65,000 tax lien.
Wow.
That was huge. huge.
Wow.
Guess
And the
what?
seller didn't know?
I was the lister.
Oh.
I just about died. And, you know, I called up our people, and Vance and I are like, oh, how could they not know? They swore they didn't know.
What was it, from HOA or what?
Taxes,
Property taxes.
property taxes.
How do you not know that?
Or income tax. I don't even know. It was a tax lien for $65,000. All I did was notify them and say, if you want to sell this house, that's got to go away.
Yeah.
And they did. I don't
Way
know.
before you get your money.
Yeah. Right now, in the next 2 days, that's got to go away. So, but let's say that these people didn't have $65,000 to pay off that tax lien.
Yeah.
Didn't really and truly, genuinely did not know about it, and were like as astounded as everybody else. That deal just fell apart because that buyer just walked.
Okay.
That's your fourth place. Okay,
Can they offer to discount the price of the house by $65,000?
that's got to come off. That title is encumbered.
Okay.
It doesn't have anything to do with him and you, the seller.
Mhm.
It has to do with that seller.
Cleaning it up.
Clean
before
it up.
sells.
Got to be totally clear. Can't transfer. Yeah, can't transfer. Okay, so while all of this is done, you're being asked to resend your W-2s, resend your last 3 bank statements, resend your last pay stub, resend that letter that your mom is giving you $10,000 to buy the house and it's a gift and she doesn't expect it back. Resend. They just ask for everything. It's really good to tell your people that that's going to happen. So you're going to be taking care of documentation here, even though you've already done it. And that documentation, sorry, can't talk and write at the same time. All of that is going into underwriting. And the underwriters are the ones that are asking for all of that. So that's all of that documentation is going right up into underwriting.
Okay.
Which then transfers into, see that cute little gift? That's your loan package. So
Okay.
cute with a bow on it. The appraisal coming back at value is your bow. That is like the last thing that ties your loan package together. That loan package is all that paperwork, W-2s, bank statements, cash deposits. Oh, they don't like those. That, you know, that selling drugs on the corner is just not really a good thing. So they want to make sure all your cash deposits have some sort of a paper trail. Pay stubs, all of that. That's all your loan package. So all of that is getting all put in there. And once you get your appraisal, that's pretty much your last piece. Okay? Once you have that, and everything, I have not had anybody do this, but that is your loan approval. And there is a date, and I'm gonna apologize in advance for this. I can't remember what's changed on the dates and deadlines for 2019, but there are some dates that have changed. So if I'm telling you something that's the loan objection date may have turned into what they call a loan termination date, or
That might be right.
I think that's right. But again, Todd and Stacy, sorry, you have to get with everybody. But your loan approval is set in stone back here when we made an offer.
Yeah, so I'm approved here, but you're saying I have to get approved here.
What happens is you're preliminarily approved
Okay.
here with, overall, you look good.
Okay.
But these underwriters are really gonna dig down.
Okay.
And they're gonna find out,
Your DNA.
yeah, your first
They're
where
gonna
you
make sure you
had
didn't buy
'em.
another car.
Yeah, don't buy another car, don't change your financial situation whatsoever, because until this date has passed and till we've closed, because we do have people that try and sneak it in after, crazy. And they run your credit the day before closing. One more time,
I
make sure it's
usually
still clear.
explain that very clear because I mostly work with Hispanic.
Right, right.
And they take it personal. Like,
Ex-
you're looking for me because I am
Because-
Latino or Hispanic.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
No,
they're gonna check your DNA pretty much.
You're right.
And it's the same for you, for me, for him, for whoever wants
Everybody.
to buy a house. Because if it's an FHA or whatever it is, they're gonna make sure they're gonna get their money.
Right.
You know, whatever happens, they're gonna make their money, and
But-
it's worth it a lot.
And I
Don't
think,
take it personal.
and I think that's absolutely
take it
true
personal,
with the
baby.
community that you're working in, but a lot of people feel that way. This is
Yeah,
personal.
because why
buyers
do
are like,
you do
what?
that?
What?
Like,
Why?
What? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, make
Who,
sure
what,
that,
why, when, where.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
so right here, before we hit that deadline for loan approval or in the new contract, possibly loan termination, is your fifth and last place that your buyer can walk and get their 5,000. You could walk up till that point.
Okay,
Um,
so if I don't get approved.
if you don't get approved, say you're approved, but instead of 4.9, they're at 5.6. You don't like that interest rate. It changes your whole thing. They still say you can qualify, but it changes your budget. You can walk.
So I thought I was locked in at a rate here.
You probably are. I'm just
Okay.
making things up, but you could go.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people who waited too long to close and they missed their rate. Their lock
Yeah.
got passed, and the loan could go up. The rate lock is gone.
Can you still buy down points?
I'm not a lender. I don't know.
think you can.
I think you can, but I don't know. I really don't know. I
don't
really
wanna-
call
don't wanna
them
get
all the time.
into it. You don't wanna
Okay,
get into
once this date has passed, that line, you have stepped over that line. The 5 is back here and you're on this side of it. Your earnest money goes hard.
Can you,
Point of no return. Earnest money goes hard. Mindy?
can you still, walk on insurance objection?
I think that most lenders these days are getting that insurance to work, so I have not seen that. I have not seen anybody leave. You probably could.
Contract-wise,
It's not
That's a date
specifically
you
laid
can-
out that I am aware of. That is just not something that has come up. HOA, title, probably insurance.
I would
Do you
put
know if
that
it's
as
in the
my very
contract?
last date, because it's sort of
Oh,
a
okay.
get out of jail free card.
Okay. Yeah, that is not something I have been taught, so it's not something I teach my
The lender
buyers.
taught me that.
Okay. Here in Colorado?
Mhm.
Yeah. So he is obviously, that's why I said, I'm not a lender if there are other places. But here's the thing with insurance, and we're talking homeowners insurance, right? Just want to make sure we're on the same thing. With homeowners insurance, the lenders that I've seen, if the amount comes in too high to fit into the bracket that they need that monthly payment to be in, they will ask their buyers to raise their deductibles, which lowers their monthly payment, put that monthly payment in, get them qualified, and then recommend that that insurance company and client get together afterwards and put their deductibles, because once the closing is done, it doesn't matter. And in fact, I was one of those. We put our deductibles up to $5,000 to make the monthly payment fit into our monthly payment. And then right afterwards, we contacted our insurance company and they put them back up to whatever. And we stayed there for a year until we were a little more financially solvent. And then we lowered them back down again and paid more for insurance. So that's an insurance thing. So I've never seen anybody walk for that, because there are.
But you could.
But you could. Yeah, because anything this is a part of your loan approval. So really, that's probably more what you need to keep in mind, that insurance piece knocks him out of being approved for his loan. So it really falls under that umbrella, as opposed to like HOA is not that by itself.
And I think they always recommend on the loan approval to put that real close to closing.
Oh, my loan approvals are the day before we close.
Oh, you doing that?
I
Oh, wow.
up to the end.
I'm usually two days.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do that, and my appraisal deadline is maybe
And you
4
don't
or
get
5
pushed
days.
back on that?
I haven't. No. So
Because basically it's saying we have a way out no matter what.
right
So
up to the end, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take. I don't think I necessarily did that as a new agent.
Yeah.
I've done that as as an experienced agent,
Yeah.
because I had a couple of people where I had to push loan approvals out through amend extends, and that's a nasty business.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to do it again. So, back here when everybody's happy, they look at that and they go, oh yeah, that's fine, no problem. It's when you're here and you're asking for 3 more days that it gets ugly. And I have had that a couple of times, and I will never do that again. I just go right to the day before close. Okay, so couple last lines on here.
Okay.
Once you're approved, you're buying a house, John. Congratulations. Haven't closed yet, but you're buying a house.
Still got some hurdles there.
Got a couple of more hurdles. You need to start looking at the utilities for that home. You need to stop the utilities where you're currently at. You need to get your utilities put into your name by a certain date. The sellers should be doing the same thing, but I want to make sure you know that's your responsibility. Water will be taken care of by the title company, but everything else, electric, gas, everything else is your responsibility to get into your name.
What about final walkthrough?
We're not there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so also during utilities, way back here, one of the things that we asked for in our inspection objection was invoices by a licensed professional that show us that the work has been done. So this other little line stuck in here is the invoices. They need to be getting those to us. Usually I write 3 days before closing into my inspection objection. So utilities, your responsibility. Invoices, I should be getting those from the other agent. I will pass them on to you, but it is your job also. We're a team. So please, if you think there's an invoice that you haven't gotten, I might be busy and it may have slipped through the cracks. I'd love to say I'm perfect, but I'm not. And so please be aware that if they said they were going to send us one on that furnace and on the plumber for the toilet and on the roof cert, that we've got all of the things that you expected to get. And that we are doing it 3 days before closing. Next is the 1 day before closing walkthrough. So what this is, John, is we're going to walk through the house. It is not an inspection, and it's not something that, because you could obviously walk in and go, oh my God, I'm not buying this house. You could. You're going to lose your $4,000 at that point. So that's not what this walkthrough is for. It's to really kind of make sure we've got the invoices with us. We're going to make sure that toilet's not leaky. We're going to look at the furnace and look like somebody's been there. We really won't know. Just kind of walk around, make sure that the refrigerator that they said was with the house is still the same refrigerator, the washer and dryer's there, or that the washer and dryer has been taken out because it was terrible and didn't work and we don't want to get rid of it. So that stuff gets out, no holes in the wall.
Because how do I know they didn't break something while...
Or their 5-year-old didn't spill a whole thing of Kool-Aid on the front carpet,
So what do I do if there's a problem?
Then we may have to push closing a day or two while they address these issues. And that's a conversation for agent to agent. You say, I'm not doing this, Pam. I mean, I want the house, but I'm not going to replace all the carpet because this kid spilled Kool-Aid. So then that's a negotiation. I've never had that happen. The only thing I had happen was on a new construction. We went to the walkthrough the day before, and they were supposed to have a fence, and it was one of these little tiny yard things, so the 6 feet to 6 feet to the other house, and none of the fencing was in. And they were like, we've got 2 dogs. We have to have our fence. I said, that's fine, we're not closing. And the inspector guy who walks through with you on new construction said, well, we have to close. We're scheduled at 3. I said, we're not closing if you don't have a fence. That guy had people out there putting that fence in 20 minutes, and it was done before 3. You just have to, you have to stand your ground. You have to defend your clients. You have to take care of your buyers. And what's a day or two to them? At that point, nothing. It's new construction. They've been waiting 6 months for this house.
Right.
You know, even if
Wow.
you've got to push your movers out a day or two.
Because once you close, you lose.
You have
options.
no,
You lose that right.
you have absolutely no leverage.
I've known agents to buy refrigerators because sellers took them and moved out of state.
When I was a brand new agent, I had an experienced agent tell me, she walked into the office and she was all upset and everything, and I said, what's wrong? And she goes, I gotta go buy a refrigerator. And she goes, let me just tell you, you are not a real realtor until you bought a refrigerator.
You're cursing us all.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I've never had to buy a refrigerator.
Okay.
Knock on wood.
But yeah, knock on wood. But so at this point then, and I'm not going to go through this with you guys. Oh geez, we're 10 minutes late. Sorry guys. I go back to this. I review this with them because obviously it doesn't take me that long with a regular buyer. But I review this line by line with them, paragraph by paragraph, and then I say, so are we ready to work together as a team? That's my line. Are we ready to work together as a team? Not, are you hiring me? Not, are you happy with my presentation? I don't care if they're happy with my presentation. Are we working together? So that's the thing. They sign the agency. And
One other thing, first-time home buyers don't remember is that they don't pay the commission. Don't I owe you my?
Oh yeah, and you know, I think there's a
Yeah,
page. I think there's a page in this presentation that I added for that too, because
I know
they
a lot.
need to know
I
this.
used to get asked that.
I do usually put a heart around the closing date. You're welcome.
So when you're presenting this information, this form is filled out.
Yes, and then they leave with it.
You just did this with us to teach us how to.
Yes,
not
yes.
something
They
we
don't
do
they don't fill it out. I fill it out just like I did for John, and then I hand it to him, and I say, look, this looks terribly
But you fill it out there
confusing.
when you're sitting.
When I'm
Oh,
sitting
you
with
do
them.
fill it out with them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I
That's what I meant.
misunderstood. Yes, I absolutely sit and go through this. It provokes so much. I cannot tell you, there's probably not a time that I haven't done and if you need to leave, by all means go.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I have a
no,
12:30
it's
appointment.
fine, Kim, I'm so sorry. I
Thank you
really
so much.
thought we would be out of here at 12. You guys are such a good group. You've
I
asked so
knew we
many
would be done at
questions.
noon. There's too much to ask.
But what were you asking me? Now I forgot what I was going to talk
When you
about.
make the
but-
presentation, when I make the presentation.
You fill it out with them to teach them.
Oh, you said there's
Oh,
a lot of
there has never been a time that I haven't finished that thing that people haven't said, oh my God,
I
this
didn't
is
know.
so wonderful. I did not know
Well, it's
that.
very informative. I
It's
mean,
very
even I'm
informative.
like, what?
So I will offer you the same thing I have offered any class I've ever taught on this. If you want a role-playing time frame that you want to review this,